Hey everyone, here's part 2 of my video on Bell Hooks' All About Love. Thank you for coming and for continuing this talk with me, as this is a topic that I'm really passionate about and I've dedicated a lot of my time towards. I'm glad to share this and thankful to those of you who are here. In the first video, I talked about Bell Hooks' definitions of love, how we've learned about love from our families and from media, and how we've learned to be greedy and needy in love. In this video, I'm talking about how love can look from a different approach, based on what Hooks suggests is loving for love's sake, and I'll explain how I've applied these ideas in all of my relationships. So, moving forward in that direction, let's cast a wider net for love. Since so far in the first video, I've kind of angled this discussion more towards romantic monogamous love, as that to me seems the most pressing. And so I also felt really inspired when Hooks talked about how, when we form romantic relationships, we often value them above our friendships, and we spend less time loving our friends than usual. Right? I'm sure that you've had a friend or two who became less available when they started a romantic relationship. If you're one of my longtime friends watching this, then I'm sure that you could say that about me. But let's be honest, most of my friends don't watch my videos. Ain't that right, Brian? Huh? No. I'm not going to get a text message about this video from Brian. I know that, but I still love him though. But back to the point. When I came back to Canada in 2020, I heard it from my friends there, how hurt they were when I stopped communicating with them as much when I got married and moved overseas. Yeah. Reconnecting with them and having their support during my divorce was so very important for me, and I'm very lucky to have friends who have forgiven me for my distance. I'm not alone here in this experience, as Hooks describes going through something very similar. And for some reason, there's no audiobook version of this in English, but there is one in German, oddly. So I'm just going to read this myself. Naturally, when I left this long-term relationship, which had taken up so much time and energy, I was terribly alone and lonely. I learned then that it is more fulfilling to live one's life within a circle of love, interacting with loved ones to whom we are committed. Lots of us learned this lesson the hard way by finding ourselves alone and without meaningful connections to friends. And it has been the experience of both living in fear of abandonment in romantic relationships and being abandoned that has shown us that the principles of love are always the same in any meaningful bond. To love well is a task in all meaningful relationships, not just romantic bonds. I'll read that last line again. To love well is a task in all meaningful relationships, not just romantic bonds. Let me put this in other words. In our romantic relationships, we're often working through the lens of our attachment issues, be they anxious, avoidant, or a combination of both. And many of us are operating within a fear of abandonment because we've experienced the harsh severance of attachment bonds before, which is truly traumatic. And to reinforce this kind of scarcity mentality, we often hear unhealthy romantic phrases from poetry and literature and music and movies where a romantic partner is supposed to be our world, our sun, our moon, our stars, our universe, our everything, which leads us to prioritize our romantic relationships above all others, which in turn can foster codependency issues and discomfort with spending time away from our partners, where we could be celebrating our love for our friends and for other people as well. So let me know, how does that sit with you? I know that for most of the people that I've spoken with, this idea does not sit well. To many of the people that I know, the love for your romantic partner is different from the love for a child, different from the love for a sibling, and different from the love for a friend. But I disagree here, and Hooks does too. The idea here is that there are no different kinds of love, but just different patterns of behavior towards different people that we love. So let's go back to Hooks' definitions here and see how this holds. If love is the effort to foster your own and another's growth, that doesn't have to be limited to romantic partners. You Definitely. I'm sure you have that kind of love towards children, as you want to see them grow and to be healthy and well, to learn and to flourish and to find fulfillment in adulthood. And I hope that you could feel the same way about your romantic partners and your friends and family as well. Whoever you love, I hope you want them to grow and to be prosperous, regardless of what role they play in your lives. So, for the first definition of love, there is no difference in any of your meaningful relationships. So for the second definition of love, I think the same is true. Every relationship we have can definitely experience all of the other ingredients for love, which are, let's go through them one more time: open and honest communication, care, affection, trust, respect, and commitment. Now, from my experience, this is where I see love given differently and incompletely in different kinds of relationships. I'll be honest here, I haven't really experienced a lot of open and honest communication with my parents or my older siblings when I was growing up, and I know many people who can agree. Adults talk differently with each other than they do with children, and they keep secrets from kids, and they don't trust that they could handle the truth. And I didn't grow up in an environment where children were respected and heard, but mostly just kept alive and tolerated. My own flavor of neglect might be a little bit harsher than yours, but I grew up constantly being told that I was young and dumb and that I didn't know anything and that my thoughts and opinions didn't really matter. It was really painful. And I know many who've had some variant of this message delivered to them. So, open and honest communication and respect definitely weren't what I experienced growing up. Children were better to be seen than heard. Back in my day. And that sucks. Don't do that to your kids. Talk to them. Listen to them. They're great to speak with. Watch some recess therapy on Instagram. It's so deliciously wholesome. I'm happy to see people parenting so differently now than before, and seeing how my sister raised her kids and some of my friends as well, like Joe, who also isn't going to watch this video. Well, it feels like they're offering their children all of the ingredients of love that I think should be given to all people. And I really respect them so much for it. Outside of my family of origin, I found affection to be very limited and ultra exclusive. Men really couldn't show kind and gentle affection to each other because of toxic masculinity and homophobia. My brother wasn't comfortable hugging me for most of my childhood, and I certainly didn't hug my male friends growing up. Acting tough and whatever the fuck manly is was far more important. And I remember teaching in Korea and being surprised to see many male students walking and holding hands with each other as they walked down the hallway, and they hugged each other and they sat in each other's laps. It was really surprising for me to see at first. Really. But now I'm so glad that they could experience affection more freely. Physical touch is very healthy for us. And we're so starved for it, since our parameters for experiencing it are so strict, even more so since COVID times. For me, the message I learned was that affection was only something to be experienced with our romantic partners of the opposite sex and exclusive to only one romantic partner, because jealousy and possessiveness have been so very fine-tuned through romantic notions of being my one and only, my sun and stars and universe kind of messaging, which we're taught through the lyrics of love songs especially. If you've watched any of Alain de Botton, I don't know how to say his name. If you've watched any of his talks about love, you'll know what I mean. And if not, I do recommend that you check them out, as he's both very insightful and very hilarious. And he's bald, so extra points for you there. It's easy to see how once we do find a partner with whom we can finally experience affection, codependency can definitely flourish, as we can have many friends and family who care about us, who respect us, and who communicate with us, who trust us, and who are committed to having us in their lives, but so very few that we can physically feel through affection. It's so rare to us, and yet it's so important that once we've got a supply of it, we're often hooked, especially those of us with anxious attachment styles. I'm very affectionate with my romantic partners, and the couple of female friends who, when they talk with me, when they hold my hand or they put their head on my shoulder or they caress my arms, my body just lights up with feelings of love for them. Oh, this is going to be tough to talk about. I've even experimented with polyamorous dynamics for a few months because it's something that I believe in philosophically, as I see many of the pitfalls of monogamous relationships. While I found polyamory immensely fulfilling and grounds for very deep personal growth, as I was able to examine my jealousies and mature them into compassion and sympathetic joy, I also found that juggling a few relationships was just taking up too much energy. It could be because I was operating in a fluid chain dynamic rather than a triad. I don't know. But for me, having one relationship a lot and two is a lot more. But I'm sure that's an entirely different discussion to have. So join me on Discord if you'd like to get more into it. We have a couple people there that are polyamorous as well. It's cool. So one of the ways in which I've dedicated my life and time to focus on love as an art form, the way that From suggests, is to offer all of the ingredients to love to all of the people in my life. And in doing so, I found my friendships and romantic relationships really flourishing, and the connections that I'm feeling are very profound. Looking back at February 2021 and how I felt unlovable and incapable of loving, I can really thank hooks for being a huge part of my healing journey and for guiding me back to the light of love. I hope that you could read this book and feel inspired as well if you've gone through a rough breakup of your own. I'll leave this video off with one last idea, and that's on self-love, which took me a very long time to understand. Now, I watched a whole lot of RuPaul's Drag Race, and every episode would end, if you can't love yourself, then how the hell are you gonna love somebody else? Can I get an amen? Let the music play. To the moon. Okay, I'm honest, I watched a lot of it, and while I had that message memorized for years, I didn't really understand how to love myself or what that even meant, as all the examples of self-love that I've ever seen just manifest as inflated self-ego and self-aggrandizement, and just as being a cheerleader and a hype man for yourself. A bunch of positive affirmations and just telling myself that I'm awesome didn't really feel satisfying as self-love for me, and it felt dishonest. But with Hooks' definition, I got a much better framework of what self-love can look like, as I can offer all of her ingredients to myself. Can I put energy into my own spiritual growth? For sure I can. That's all I've been doing these past 2 years. Yep. Can I be open and honest with myself? Have a conversation with myself honestly without lying to myself? Can I care for myself? Take care of myself and my body and be kind and gentle to myself? Can I give myself affection? Well, that one took a lot of work and felt really awkward at first, as it does with everyone that I know when they first get into self-affection. But I'm much more comfortable with being affectionate with myself now. I don't really feel any awkwardness in hugging myself and in petting my own face or in kissing my shoulders or putting a hand on my chest and looking at myself with compassion. It is a little awkward to do it in public though, so I kind of just do it in private. Moving on, can I trust myself, believe in myself, and stop doubting myself? For sure I can. And while that too took some time and still is a challenge for me on some days, more often than not, I trust that I'm moving in the right direction. Can I respect myself, avoid negative self-talk, and talk to myself kindly as I would a friend? This was a big one for me. I remember when I first got into self-compassion, I would catch some of the disrespect that I gave to myself. I would think that somebody that I'm with is awesome and that I kind of trick them into hanging out with me. I mean, Imagine if I changed those words around and said that they tricked me into hanging out with them because they're not awesome and they're not good enough. How damaging would that be if I said that to that person? And I've been saying that to myself for years, but not anymore. I respect who I am and who I'm becoming. Can I be committed to myself, dedicated to investing time in my relationship with myself, being comfortable in just spending time together with me? Yeah, I can do that. And in doing all of these things for myself, in walking in love with myself, in being active in my self-love, I can really now understand what RuPaul was saying. Finally, I couldn't love somebody else if I didn't know how to love myself as well. But now, in feeling complete in my love for myself, I'm not approaching any of my relationships and looking for someone to fill in the parts of me that are missing, to complete me, like that quote from Jerry Maguire that just makes me so uncomfortable when I think about it. Nobody completes you. You complete yourself. So this goes back to the Transcend book that I discussed in the first book club many, many months ago, in the difference between deficient love and being love. In fulfilling my own needs, I won't have expectations for other people to meet. I won't have any budding resentment for them when those needs aren't met by these people. Instead, I could meet my own needs and just be present with the people that I love. Just accept them as they are, enjoy them as they are, not needing them to do any different. I'm not trying to control them or to ask them to change who they are so that I could feel better about myself. No, they are deserving of love no matter what. So, those are my biggest takeaways from the book. And I took up damn near an hour's worth of talking about love, but I think that this is important. I think that when we choose to be in love with another person, it's not often that we talk about what that means. We hope that we're speaking the same language and that we mean the same thing and that we've got the same ideas about what it means to be in a relationship and what it means to be in love, but we're not clear. It's kind of like saying, hey, let's bake together, and then find out that one person wants to bake a tart while we want to bake a cake. So I say, let's talk about all of the ingredients in love that we want to put into our relationships with sincerity, vulnerability, and compassion. That's it. Thanks for making it this far into the video. The comments are open, and I'd love to hear how you feel about this. I mentioned the Discord a couple times, and over there we've got some really great conversations going on with some very smart and self-reflective people who are deeply inspiring me in the direction of my writing. So I hope you could be a part of the community. Come join us. I have a direction that I want to go with these book club videos, a train of thought that I really want to pursue. I mentioned before and many times about how I'm taking the challenge to treat love as an art very seriously, and it's been leading me to some great connections with the different books that I've been reading. So I hope you follow along for the journey. The next stop on this train is Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg, which is as much a game changer in my life as was Bell Hooks' All About Love. This book is huge for me. Huge. If I want to be more loving, then really paying attention to how I communicate with others is important. And from what nonviolent communication suggests, much of the language that we use is very alienating and judging and shaming and just overall violent. Our language often closes off our connections with others. I'll tell you how in the next video. Till then, I hope you give that book a read, even just the first couple of chapters if you don't have a lot of time. Everyone that I've spoken with in person about this book has been changed by the ideas, and it's helped some people resolve some conflicts that they've had in their relationships for a long time when they just didn't have the tools to solve those problems before. I hope that we can move away from the violence that's so common in how we talk and move towards a language of love. See you soon. Mwah. and I'm done a second video. Ooh, this feels good. Okay, time to write and make some more.